All right. Let's gather our thoughts. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. How's everybody doing? How's y'all's week? Who graduated? Okay. Clap it up. That's what's up. I didn't get invited to any of y'all grad parties, so that's actually, it's whatever though. Anyways, so today we're going to continue our lesson. Y'all know what week it is?
5.
It's week 5 of our lesson. I'm going to do a quick recap like we always do, especially since we have new faces and stuff. So this series that we're doing, if we can, I'm going to move this real quick. Is a series that we call Rags to Riches, and it's based off the life of King David. So each week we've been going off of a certain aspect of the life of King David, kind of highlighting his struggles, his rise to fame, his downfalls, all these kind of things. So basically where we left off last week is David, he had just beaten Goliath. And we all know the story of David and Goliath. He just beat him. And usually after like a huge success like that, you expect God to like pour into your life and more blessings, right? Remember how the situation was playing out. Saul, the king at the time, remember Saul was the king. David, he was anointed to be the next king. Why can't he be king yet? Y'all know? Because Saul has to die first. Unless Saul dies, he can't be king yet. Even though that's what his anointing is, he got to wait till the first king dies. But anywho, during this time, right, Goliath, he's going to war with David. And everybody, like the Israelites around him, were shook. They were scared. Nobody wanted to fight Goliath. Nobody wanted to. David was the only one who came in and said, I'll do it. And so he beat him, and everybody was cheering for him. It even said the girls were cheering for him, and that's what got Saul really jealous. Like the girls used to cheer for him. They started cheering for David. And Saul, like from that moment, it says something like pretty deep in the Bible. It says he eyed David from that day forward. Meaning he started looking at him. Because remember, prior to this, somebody had prophesied to him that he's going to lose his kingdom soon. Who's that person? Samuel. Samuel prophesied to him, like, you're going to lose your kingdom soon. Ever since then, he got paranoid. And once he saw David beat Goliath, he's like, wait, hold up. Is this going to be the dude who overthrows me? And he starts getting really, really paranoid about that. So after David beats Goliath, Saul like devises a lot of different plans to try to get him assassinated, get him killed. Because now he sees David as a threat to his throne. He sees David as a threat to his throne. And so Saul, being the king, he basically orders a lot of things to happen to him. So basically, the first thing he tells David to do after he beats Goliath is what? Y'all remember? Anybody remember? He tells him to go to war against the Philistines. Philistines, if y'all don't know, are the biggest enemy of the Israelites at that time. He's like, go to war against them. But here's the catch. David's like, how many troops can I bring? Can I bring like 1,000, 10,000, 100,000? So I was like, nah, like you can bring like 100 troops. And David's like, just 100? He's like, it's cool, God got us. Like, we'll do it regardless. It's fine. We're going to do it. Saul's plan is to get him killed. That's why he's sending him with very few troops. Not only that, he tells his troops, hey, don't be his backup. Let him die. Let him die. And then he gives David one last command before David goes. He's like, not only do I want you to kill him and fight him, I want you to bring him, and we kind of laughed about this, I want you to bring 100 foreskins. Tune in last week if you want elaboration. I will not elaborate here. You heard me. I said 100 foreskins. He's like, bring me 100 of their foreskins of the Philistines. And David was like, I got you. Like, I'm going to bring 100. Don't worry about it. Easy. He goes, and the man, he brings 200 foreskins instead. Like, he overachieved. Remember, he's a fervent servant. He just... This guy's face. Can we zoom in on him? So, anywho, yeah, he's able to get 200 foreskins. He's able to get 200 foreskins, and he brings it back to David. He brings it back to Saul. He's like, here you go, 200 foreskins. I know you asked for 100, but here's 200. Like, God delivered them into our hands. And Saul's like, first of all, like, you're kind of weird. But second of all, he's like, what can I do now? Like, what can I do now? And so because he's able to beat Goliath, Saul decides to reward him with one of his daughters. The promise was he was going to give him his oldest daughter. The oldest daughter in Israelite tradition is like really like a prized, like, it's a very like, the society at the time was very much geared towards men, but the oldest daughter was considered like the prized possession a family could have. And he's like, you get to have her. That was the promise if he beat Goliath. However, instead, Saul decides to give him his second daughter. That's kind of just like a little just like petty thing. And he starts to think, he's like, you know what? Actually, like this second daughter of mine, she could be of help to me. She can like, she's going to be with him at night and whatever. Like she can be my means of killing him. And so he tells her the plans, whatever. And the plan is to have assassins come into David's household when he's sleeping and like kill him in the midst of that. But as we know, God is with David. The Spirit of God had left Saul long ago. God is not working with Saul anymore. Saul keeps rejecting him, going on his own way. He's too insecure about his kingdom. He's not ready to give it up to God. He's trying to like protect it with his own strength. Little does he know we can't do anything of our own strength. But David, being a man of God, he wins the girl over. She ends up falling in love with him. And so one night, she's like, like, you're not that bad. Like, I kind of love you. And she's like, I know something. I got to let you know something. He's like, what is it? Like, my dad, he's sending hundreds of assassins over to come kill you. He's like, what? Like right now? Like today? So he's like, yeah. And he's like, what do we do? What do we do? And she's like, look, you get out the window. I have like some material. I'm going to make it look like a person. And I'm going to like hide it under the sheets. You hop out the window. And so he's like, okay, like when? She's like, now. Like, and he leaves. Sure enough, the assassins break in. They try to kill what they thought was David. It wasn't David. They bring the news back to Saul. Saul flips out, like on the daughter. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you're making me like look like an embarrassment. But anywho, like that was not successful for him either. David then, like, he's still a man of God. Do y'all know what his job was? What his occupation was? Shepherd. That was his initial occupation, right? David, he's a simple dude, a shepherd. He doesn't really do much but do shepherding and poetry. And sometimes he plays some instruments, worshiping God. That's really all he does. Shepherd, poetry, and makes like hymns, spiritual hymns. That's what he does. And he got a job working for Saul. Remember Saul, like he was going through like some stress, like some major stress. So David would like play his harp for him, like bagana, and he'd play it for him, and like Saul's stress would go away. But after Goliath, Saul was like, I'm gonna like take matters into my own hand. Like the assassins couldn't kill him. Like my daughter failed. So when he comes to like for his daily routine of like playing me his harp, I'm gonna assassinate him myself. And so like David's playing his harp, whatever, like Sigim Mesmur, Exadim Meskin, whatever, and then they throw a spear at him. Saul throws a spear at him. He misses, David runs out. And Saul, like, he starts to like trip out. He's like, I've tried to kill this man multiple times and nothing is working for me. And he starts to get scared. David is the one who got the spear thrown at him. But it doesn't say David was scared. It says Saul was scared. He's starting to think like what is happening here? But nonetheless, David, he starts like this journey of becoming a refugee. But he has a best friend during these tough times. Remember what we talked about last week? God, when he puts us in hardships, it's always with the purpose, right? The hardships he puts us in is because he knows we can overcome it. He doesn't give us hardships that we don't know we can overcome. Only us are the ones who doubt it. God's like, I know you can do it. I've given you this hardship because I know you can do it. Not only do I know you can do it, I will give you the tools to overcome it. So anytime you're in a hardship and you can't see, like with your limited vision, your limited insight, how to overcome it, God's saying, I put this in there because I know you can do it. I see what you don't see. I know what you don't know. You're stronger than what you think you are. You can overcome this. And he gave David a hardship, but he gave him a tool in these hardships too. What was his tool? What was his tool? It was his best friend, Jonathan. Jonathan was David's best friend. It said their souls were tied to each other. Their souls were tied to each other. If you want to look at like what a friendship should look like from a biblical point of view, forget a friendship, any relationship. David and Jonathan was the most loyal friendship you could possibly have. Who's Jonathan? He's Saul's son. Got that? So what does that mean? If Jonathan is Saul's son, what happens when Saul dies? Traditionally, who takes the next step as a king? Jonathan, the son. Jonathan, it doesn't make sense logically for him to work with David. David is the dude his dad is persecuting. Why would he help him out? Like, he's costing himself his position as the next king of the strongest nation in the world. But you know what he was like? He's like, I don't want this king. I don't want to be a king. Not at the cost of evilness. I'd rather follow my spiritual father, God, than my earthly father, Saul. He's crazy. And he tied his soul with David. And anytime Saul was devising plans against him, he would go to David and tell him what his dad was thinking. And he's like, I got you for life. My dad is crazy. I will die for you though. Like, you're a man after God's heart. I could tell it. I could see it. Just one thing. Remember me. Like, when you become king, like, let me be like one of your right-hand man. See, like, the humility behind that. Now, once that he asked to be king, even though by birth, that's what you think would be next for him. His soul was tied to him. But then at that point, Saul and Jonathan, David, they meet up. And they come up with a plan. Jonathan tells David that there's about to be a banquet, a family dinner. And he tells David, here's our plan. At this family dinner, don't show up. He's telling this to David. Don't show up to the family dinner. If my dad starts to trip about it, if he trips that you're not there, if he gets upset that you're not there, that means he wanted to kill you. However, if he doesn't get upset, if he's okay with you not being there, that means he's over the whole situation. The banquet is 3 days. So they pull up to the banquet. Sure enough, David is not there. Saul's like, where is he? Where is David? Jonathan's like, oh, he's like, no, I think he went to his dad's house. They're in Bethlehem or something. Like, they're doing something else. He's with the sheep again. And Saul's like, okay, cool, bet. Second day of the banquet, Saul asks him the same question. Where is he? And Jonathan's like, oh, I think he's still there, like traffic, whatever. And then at that point, Saul loses it. He starts to like curse Jonathan. He curses his mother. He's like, you're a cursed child. Your mother's cursed. You're working with the son of Jesse. You're working with that peasant. You guys are best friends. You think I'm a fool. You think I'm a mocker. And he throws a spear at him. He misses. Jonathan runs out. He meets David. And he tells David, my dad's not playing. He's trying to kill you. And David's like, see, I told you. So what this means for him is that he has to run away. At that point, he has to be a refugee. Not that I'll check 1 second. There we go. At this point, he runs away. And they say their goodbyes. It's like very sad. Like they start crying. Like both of them, like they're best friends. They know like they might not see each other ever again. The one tool, remember, in hardships, God gives you tools to get through it. Jonathan was his tool, but God was taking away his final tool. They were separated. David officially becomes a refugee. He leaves the land where he grew up in. And you might be thinking, this is kind of crazy. Like, when did he ever ask to be king? David never asked to be king. God is the one who told him to be king. And then you would think, oh, king, you about to like, rule the nation. Good things are going to come your way. You're going to be the best king. The worst things in his life came after that. So, these are the things that he lost, right? He lost his best friend. He lost his wife. He lost his job. He lost his country. And he lost his dignity. If y'all remember, as a refugee, he went to the nation, the Philistine nation, and pulled up on them. Why is this kind of an issue? Why is it an issue? Like, he went to the Philistine king's house, knocked on the door, he's like, hey, remember me? He's the dude that killed Goliath. Y'all know that, right? Goliath, what is he? He's a Philistine. This is how desperate he is. He goes, not forget that. He goes to a nation known as like the Gentile nation, meaning they're impure. The Jews, they don't mess with them at all. It's impure. In their laws, you're not allowed to mess with them. David is desperate. He has no food, no shelter, no home. He pulls up there. And not only does he pull up there, he acts crazy. Because he knows that you're going to recognize him. But he's like, if I act crazy, maybe they'll feel bad for me and they'll house me. So he pulls up, I'm not even joking, drooling, like screaming, like just tweaking, like acting crazy. And they're like, bro, like they're all looking at him like this, like, leave. Like, no, you're not staying here. And so he leaves. So after we left off last week with him finding a cave. He found a cave to stay in, and that's where he is right now, a cave. And we looked at the Psalms that he was writing. A lot of the Psalms were like, I put my trust in my God. God is my refuge. He's my God in whom I trust. And a lot of them, like, it mentions him crying. So he's in this cave. You got to visualize. He's in this cave alone. This is the person who had all his happiness, just being low-key, nobody knowing him, messing with the sheep, like caring for his sheep. But now he's in a cave, and you got to be thinking, like, how did I get here? And he's just bawling his eyes out. And that's where we see like a lot of his Psalms written. When you read Psalms, it's throughout, a lot of it was throughout this time. So that's where we're going to pick up from today. So like I said, he lost all these things, but he's called a man after God's heart for a reason. Because if we lost one of these things, well, we're folding. If we lose our job, if we lose our wife, we got to leave America, go somewhere else. That's tough. Forget that. Like, even if it's a smaller thing, right? Like, if we get a flat tire, like, God, are you even there? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of stuff that we get upset about. David lost all these things, and where he went to? He went to his book and his writing his poetry, his Psalms. Venting, if you will. But those ventings become the prayers that we recite all the time now. His venting. So, this is the thing we see from this. David had a lot of issues, a lot of stuff that he was going through. Saul being his biggest issue. However, God was more real to David than what Saul was. God was more real to David than what Saul was. Saul being symbolic of our issues. We have it the other way around. Our issues are more real to us than God. Like David, he didn't see these issues as like, wow, like what do I do? Like my life sucks. He's like, no, my God is bigger than these issues. These issues, they're there, but my God is more real than these issues. My God is more faithful. My God is more caring. My God will deliver me. Us, we reverse it. Like these problems are too big for God. These problems are too big for me. That did not cross David's mind once. God was more real to him than the enemy in front of him trying to kill him. His God, like when he saw that enemy in front of him, he saw his angels and God behind him. That's what was real to him. I forgot where it is. It's in the Old Testament. But they're going to war, right? And I feel like it was one of the prophets, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to war. And it's just him and like a couple other people. And like thousands of other people are approaching him. And he's freaking out. And then one of the other prophets next to him, he calms him down. And he says, look around you. There's way more of us than there is of them. And he looks behind us like the whole army of angels with him. That's how David was moving. On the outside, it looked like everything was against him. But he knew he wasn't alone. 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 2 through 4. This is what David was saying. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation. He is my stronghold, my refuge, and my savior. From violent people, you save me. You know what the greatest gift is that you can give to God? The greatest gift you can give him. It's not like sacrificing your sleep for church. It's not fasting 18 hours a day. That's not the greatest gift you can give God. The greatest gift you can give God is trusting him. That's the greatest gift you can give him. Putting your trust in him. Because it's not an easy thing to do. We put our trust in things that we're humans. We like to trust things that we see, tangible. Okay, you're telling me to take like this right this way. What does my GPS match? Okay, imagine I trust you. I'll go right. Like we like to think in that manner. That's not really faith though. That's the greatest gift you can give God is trusting him. And that's what David did. Think about it. Moses, and it's so funny like how God works, right? It's almost like comedic because like if you look in the Bible, anytime somebody did something like really great, something really big, like you would think like again, good things are going to happen in their way. But every time somebody did something good, something huge, bad stuff happened. It's crazy. It's like God has an interesting sense of humor. Like Moses, for example, what was the big thing that he did? He freed the Israelites. They crossed the ocean. They're singing Mazmur. Like they're singing that. And then after that, God puts them in the wilderness and they're wandering for like 40 years. That makes no sense. Like they're all happy. God just like, bro, they split the ocean. Like the ocean is split. Like they're walking through it. And then immediately after that, that's the situation they find themselves in. But what did Moses do? Trusted in him. That was the best gift he could give him. Trust. Joseph, he got sold into slavery. After what? Honoring his father and mother. Being the best brother he could possibly be. Caring for them. Doing whatever he can for them. And how did he get rewarded for that? Slavery. In the midst of that though, he trusted in God. Became second in charge. In all of Egypt, a country he's not even from. The best gift you can give God is trust. So if you're looking at David's life right now, forget like that is written David, right? Feeling like somebody random's name. Like imagine you're reading an article and it says somebody's going through this. Your eyes, your mind is telling you like, bro, this man's done for. Like his time is ticking. Like set up the GoFundMe. Like it's not looking good. That's what human eyes say. It's over. But literally right when you think it's over is when God is saying it's just beginning. My work is just beginning. You're going to see my glory, my strength, my power by what I do for this person. When y'all think that his life is done, when y'all think that I have left him, just watch. My glory will be shown through this. In the New Testament, the Pharisees, they bring a man blind from birth to Christ. Not only was he blind, like he was like in our tradition, he wasn't born with eyes. He had no eyes. And so they bring him to Jesus, and they're like, why is this man blind? Like, whose fault was it? Whose sin was it? Was it his parents' sin or was it his sin? And God's like, it's neither. It's for the glory of God to be shown. And he heals the man, cures him, he can see again. And it's in these moments that God's glory is shown. Think about it. When you least expect it and something great happens for you, you're like, that's God, no doubt about it. That's why he works like that. Because when it's not like that, when you expect something to happen and like it happens, you start to give yourself some of that credit. You start to rationalize it. Oh, it happened because I planned it this way. It happened because I filled whatever. But when you really don't expect it to happen and it happens, you're left with nothing else to say but God did it. So David, he's in this cave, and like I said, like he's crying. Because like think about it, it's hard. It's one thing if you did something wrong and you end up a refugee or something, and like you just like feel bad, like dang, I should have done something wrong. But it's another thing when you've done everything right and it still didn't work out. That's a very painful feeling. Like think about it, apply it in your life, right? It can be in relationships, it can be in jobs, your applications, whatever. You did everything you possibly could do right, and it just didn't work out. That's like a really heartbreaking position to be in. And that's what David was in. He couldn't understand it. Why? I'm just a shepherd. I come from this tribe that nobody knows him. My dad is Jesse. He's a nobody. How did I find but God got me. So in this cave, he's chilling, and he sees from afar like people approaching him. A lot of people approaching him. And they come closer, and he starts to recognize them. And it's his family. It's his dad, it's his siblings, and all these things. If y'all were here for the previous series, you would know why this is a big deal. Tune into the previous series on YouTube. OTYG_Seattle. Is there underscore? No underscore. So they pull up on him. And this is a big deal because when Samuel came to their house to find the next king, this is before David became king, like his dad Jesse presented all his children to him except for David. It legit says, if you read it, he forgot David even existed. So David was that child that nobody thought about, nobody cared about. He was a nobody in that family. Nobody cared about him. Not only that, anytime they told him to come out the room, it was a big deal. He's is everything okay? You're telling me to leave my room now? It's okay? He was literally that outcast in the corner. That's how the family treated him. And now his family pulls up on him. You know why they pull up on him? David's an enemy of the state. So if he's the enemy of the state, what does it make his family? The same thing. And so they leave and they pull up on him. What do you think David's gonna do? Oh, y'all want to now y'all want to recognize me? Now y'all want to pull up on me? Now y'all want to be with me? Now that I'm up in this cave, you want to be with me now? That's how we would react. You know what David did? He bowed down, welcomed them. He's like, hey, there's a nice little spot right here. This rock is super comfortable, most comfortable rock in the cave. Take it, it's all you. We don't have blankets, but we have some really warm dirt right there. That's all you. I'll just sleep, whatever. He took care of all of them as if nothing ever happened. You see, God's commandments are not conditional. Honor your father and mother. David understood that. He understood Moses' law very well. He knew that the neglect, that the hurt, he's a human being. Nobody likes to be not understood by their family. Nobody likes not to feel recognized by their family. He felt those emotions. However, he was loyal to his God. He took care of them. He took care of them. None of us would do that. God's commandments are not conditional. David understood that. He took care of all of them. Not only that, after he starts taking care of them, he looks from afar and saw he's spending so much time trying to chase David. The country now starts to deteriorate. People become poor. A lot of people start to go in debt and all these kind of things. And so he looks, and it's 400 people coming towards the cave. They're this is what it says actually. It says 400 people came that are in distress, debt, and discontent. So 400 people with their own issues, their own problems. David has all the issues in the world. He did nothing and he's a refugee. He almost got assassinated last week. And now 400 people are coming to him, going through the same issues. And his family. Why would God send this? And guess what? He takes care of them too. He takes care of them too. Just like they're one of his own. Despite what he's going through. Despite prior to that, like I said, he's crying, writing poetry. He looks and sees like, I gotta like put my book away, and like I gotta like care for them, make sure everything's set for them. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. And not only that, like after he takes care of them, like this is a key thing, right? These 400 people become like his troops later. They become loyal to him to the point of death. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. Here's the thing. When you're at your lowest, what do we want? You want to focus on yourself. You got no time to think about nobody else. You're at your lowest. Like, you know what we say? It's like, I got to take care of myself first before I can take care of other people, before I can do those things. And honestly, like, that's a very interesting concept because it kind of makes sense to us, right? Like the saying, like, you can't pour into someone else's cup until your cup is filled or whatever. Was David's cup filled? Was David's cup filled? Yes or no? Yes. It was filled. By God. We're looking at it externally. Was his cup filled outside by outside blessings? No, but that's not how we looked at it. Inside blessings, his cup was filled. When we say we got to look for ourselves first, we're talking about the external things. We're not looking internally. David's cup was filled overflowing inside by his great actions to these people, taking care of them. His cup was full. But we've turned it into, I got to take care of myself, meaning externally everything got to be good before I pour into somebody else. That's not how David understood that, though. Could be true, could be false, I don't know. There's a story. So there's this like dude, like he's just, I'm gonna just get straight to the point. He's just having a terrible week. Like his week is awful. Like it's just one of those weeks, like it's like today, like the weather is like this, like the whole week, whatever. Just a depressing kind of thing, right? Like work was tough. Like he goes into the office and they let him know, like, you know, budget cuts are coming. Like just be aware. Like hope everything works out. Like just whatever. And he's stressed out by that. But even like in addition to that, like he has to go home and like care for his mother. She's not doing well. And so he's stressed about that as well. He's thinking about his job. He's thinking about his mom who he has to take care of. And on top of that, he has girl issues. It's not working out for him and his girl. You know, I don't know what's happening. He didn't tell me. Something happened. I don't know. On top of that, he's the oldest sibling. And if y'all the oldest siblings in the room, y'all know what that means. Oldest sibling, going through it. And so he's starting to like lose it. Like life is not looking good for him. And he's like, I gotta just pray. And he goes to his room. He prays like, God, I cannot take this anymore. Like I'm about to lose it. I'm about to lose it. And he finishes praying and he goes back to take care of his mom. Goes back to like whatever he was doing. And he gets a call from one of his friends. He doesn't answer. He's like, I got too much on my plate. I don't have time for this conversation. Too much on my plate. Another call from somebody else. Same thing. Doesn't answer. Too much on my plate. I don't have time for this conversation with this person. They're just going to say this. They're going to say that. I don't have time for it. Gets a ring on the doorbell. His friends, they pull up in a car, all five of them. They come with like to check in on him. Are you good? Like, you're not answering our calls. Like, hey, can we come in? Like, I know I heard the news at work. Like, can we do something? He's like, no. Like, I'm just going through a lot. I need to be alone. He sends them off. And he goes back to God like later on like that day. And he's like, God, like you just don't answer my prayers ever, do you? I'm going through all of this and like you just like my mom's still sick. My job is like teetering. Like, why don't you help me out? And God answers him. What do you mean? How many people came to your door? 5 people. I sent you 5 people to help you in this situation. That's how God appears to us in our help. He appears in the forms of people to help us, to guide us. But we're so insistent on like looking inwards, we don't see the help that God is sending us. And when I say looking inward, I'm not talking about the holy way. I'm talking about the I'm all about me way. We don't see the outside help that God is sending us. God, he sends us into a cave like David. Cave meaning hardship. Cave meaning darkness. Cave meaning we don't see the light. He puts us in these situations. And we hate the cave. And we hate the people that he sent into the cave to take care of us. To look out for us. To check in on us. We hate it. But David, he embraced the cave. He turned the cave into a paradise, into a kingdom for him and those around him. Why? Because God had filled him inside. That's what he did. Accept your cave. Don't pray for the hardship to go away. Like we talked about last week, that hardship is put in place for you to ascend to that next level. To ascend to that next level. That hardship is there because God knows you can get through it. Don't pray for the cave to go away. Pray for God to guide you through the cave. Pray for God to turn the cave into a kingdom, into his kingdom. So David, he's going through all this. And like I said, all these people are there. They're all desperate too. But David, he's like, I got to take care of it. He takes care of it. So as he's doing this, our favorite person in this whole story, Saul, he's also like going through it himself. David made a huge mistake though last week. Do y'all remember what it was? Like we love David, right? But we also love the Bible. Why? Because it tells us the true hard facts about what these people did. The good and the bad, doesn't sugarcoat a thing. What did he do? Man after God's heart. What did he do last week?
Told them that Saul sent him.
He lied to a priest. Remember, he's a refugee, right? And he goes to a priest's house. And the priest is like, wait, why are you by yourself? Like, you're David. You killed Goliath, right? Don't you need, like why aren't men with you? Like, is something wrong? Like, no. Like, Saul, Saul the king, he told me to go on, like, a secret mission. And he told me to tell you to give me, like, some weapons and give me some food. And the priest is like, oh, Saul told you that? He's like, yeah, Saul told me that. Saul didn't tell him that. And he gives him the weapons. He gives him the food. And then he dips. He finessed him. Right? That's what we would say. He finessed him. See, he's human. When we talk about the Bible, we're not going to just talk about the good. We're going to talk about their human mistakes too. He lied to a priest. Hopefully none of y'all have done that before. Some of y'all have, I already know. I won't name names. I'm just joking. So Saul, in this time, he's going through something. Right? Like he's stressed out about like David. And like he's convinced David is trying to like take his kingdom. And so he's like, he hears that David just pulled up to this priest's house. So what is Saul going to do with his troops? Pull up to the priest's house, see if he's there. Something's about to go down. David lied to the priest, said Saul sent him there. Saul is now going to confront that priest. Saul, he pulls up to the priest and he starts like freaking out. He's like, was David here? Was David here? And he's like, yeah, David was here. And he's like, what did you do for him? He's like, oh, I gave him a weapon and I gave him some food. Remember, Saul's thinking David's trying to kill him. So he's like, you're helping him out? It's like, what do you mean? Like, David is like the most humble, sweetest guy. And Saul starts to burn up with anger. It's like, him sweet, him humble, he's trying to kill me. He's not. He's like crazy at this point. And so he says this. And now he's talking to the greater tribe. He says this. All of you have conspired against me. And there's no one who reveals to me that my son has made a covenant with the son of Jesse. And there's not one of you who is sorry for me or reveals to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as it is in this day. You see how he keeps saying me? He's like, well, he's whining at this point. None of you guys like me. None of you guys care about me. None of you guys are here with me. None of you guys are riding with me. See, like his issues, he keeps failing to look inside. Everything is external to him. All the problems, he's never the problem in his eyes. How many of us know somebody like that? Like, oh, it's always me. I'm miskin. What did I do to deserve this? Sometimes, look inside. And I'm going to say it every week if I have to. I don't care what situation yours, what problem yours, what issue it is. Somebody can have 95% of like the blame. There's a 5% for you in every situation. Okay, fine. You might be like extra miskin. The other person may have 99% to blame. You have 1%. Always. So Saul, he couldn't look inside. And so Saul, he's like, oh, David, right? Like he's talking to the priest now. He's like, oh, you think David is humble? You think David is kind? Really? And he looks at his troops. He's like, kill him right now. They don't move. They're like there. He's like, do y'all hear me? Kill him. They're like, bro, he's a priest. Like, kill him? And then there's this he's like a Gentile. If y'all know what Gentiles are, it's like people who aren't that religious, I guess for the sake of this course we'll say. There's one name there, his name is Doug. I feel like it's a fitting name. I don't know if there's a Doug here, but his name is Doug. And Doug's like, I'll do it. Like, I'll kill them all. There's like a bunch of priests there. And he's thinking like he's going to be like right hand to Saul. And he pulls out his sword, like I'm just picturing him like he's like cheesing. Like he pulls out his sword and like he kills like 85 priests. Himself. Priests. On Saul's orders. Whose fault was this? David. If David never lied about that, the priest would not have given him the weapons. The priest wouldn't have done that. But because David lied, 85 priests died. And it's crazy because Saul, this is the same Saul. When they tried to ordain him, it says he hid. He's like, I don't deserve this. I'm a sinner, not me. He dared to kill priests. That same Saul, 85 of them. So one of the people, like, of that tribe, like, not only they killed the priests, by the way, they killed, like, the priests and, like, the people related to the priests and everything. There's one person who escaped, and he's one of the sons of the priest. And like, he finds his way to David, and he's like, bro, like, you caused all this to us. Like, all of us, like, I'm the only one who survived. I'm the only one who lives. And this is what David says. I have caused the death of all the people in your father's house. Stay with me, do not fear. For he who seeks my life seeks your life. But with me, you shall be safe. He's making a promise to him. It's like, it is my fault. It is my fault your father died. It is my fault your uncle died. It is my fault your cousins died. But stay with me and I promise you, you'll be safe. The one thing that made David so righteous, as we see, is clearly not his actions. What made him righteous is he just had this gift of admitting his wrongs and not making excuses. Yeah. Like, do you know how embarrassing that is? Like, somebody like confronts you, well, you know, I was a refugee and like I had nothing else to do. He literally said, you're right, it is my fault. I'm sorry. What I can do for you is I can protect you with my life. I will not let anything, as long as I'm living, touch you. That's what made David like just different, a man after God's heart. If by now you're not realizing that God is not really too concerned about your outside actions, like, I don't know what it is. This man it's his fault a bunch of priests died. But God is still like, he's after my heart. Why? Because of things like this, admitting his wrongs, trying to right him. That's what makes him like who we know him to be. And so after this happens, like David, he's talking to God, and God tells him to go with his, like the 400 people that were there and his family. You know what tells him to do? Go back to Judah. David's like, come again? Who lives in Judah? Where's the palace at? That's where Saul is. David's like, I'm hiding from this man. You're telling me to go to his city. God's like, yeah. He's like, okay, cool. Grabs his troops, he's like, let's go. And his troops are like, wait, hold up. It's like, can you ask God one more time? Like, maybe like he didn't hear him correctly. Like, what are you talking about? Like, David's like, okay. Like, he goes back to God. God's like, yes. Like, did I stutter? Like, go. Like, go. So they all go. And it says this. I forgot to mention this. He goes back to Judah like for a reason, right? There's a battle going on there. And he sends them to save like a little province in Judah, like a little city. He sends them there to go save it. Okay? That's why he's going to Judah. It's not just like to like have coffee. Like, there's a reason behind it. So that's why he goes there. And Saul, he hears this word, gets back to him. Hey, what do you think he's thinking? Like, Christmas came early. And it says this. God has delivered him into my hand. This is like one of the craziest verses in the Bible. This is one of the craziest verses in the Bible. This man just killed 85 priests. And he's talking about, oh yeah, God just blessed me with David coming here. Like, he's not getting it. God, he was talking to David. He made it clear to David, go there. And Saul interpreted that as God, like sending David to him. Here's the thing. Not every voice you hear is from God, no matter how much it makes sense to you. We have a tendency to do this. We love this. Like, we try to put the puzzles together and make it make sense. Oh, like, I made eye contact with her, and then she followed me. I know she wants me. Like, you know, like, we try to make these things make sense. True story, actually. My mind just, sorry. I'm in the flow of things. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So, I may have said it before, actually. So, back in second grade, I remember this because it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. That is why I remember this. I was in second grade, and I actually, like, had my first crush. Like, seriously, like, prior to second grade, I was just too busy. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know. But second grade, had my first crush. It was a new girl in the class. And I swore, like every time I looked over her way, she was, like, looking my way. I'm dead serious. Like, our eyes would lock every time. Like, I'd get nervous. I'm like, you know? Like, every time, though, like, we would, like, make eye contact. And then, like, I don't know, like, this is not going to make sense, but it really happened. Like, I was, like, I guess you could say, like, a class clown type of person back in the day. And, like, They were like, it was like music day or something. And like, I started doing some weird dance. Like it was English music, but I was like doing this because it made no sense. And she started laughing. And I'm like, okay, like 2 points. Like eye contact and she's laughing. Like, this is great. This is going well. And then like, we're at the table, like class is starting, and it's like, you know, like those square tables. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 3 of them filled. 4th one empty. She comes in, sits next to me. I'm like, that's it, done deal. I'm gonna tell all my friends, like, this is my new girlfriend. Like, you know, like this is it. And I start talking, you know, I get excited. If you know me, I'm a very like excited dude. I get passionate. I tell everybody like, she likes me, she likes me, she likes me. Yeah. People I didn't even know, like, did you know that she likes me? Like, I'm just talking like that. And she like hears this, the word gets back to her, and she like, I'm with my friends. I will never forget this. And like, it's at recess or something, and she comes to me with her friends. And I'm like, guys, watch this. And she's like, why are you telling people I like you? I'm like, well, like this happened. Like all these things happened. And when I swore she was making eye contact with me, it wasn't me. It was the person behind me. When I swore she was like laughing, like am I dancing? It's because the dude next to me was laughing. Like they were laughing together. Like they were laughing about it. Like the thing, like I was confusing the dude for like me. Like I thought she was into me, but it was him she was into. It was him she was looking at. It's him she was laughing with. But to me, it made so much sense. Y'all should say, Like, you know, this is very hard for me to share. Like, y'all can say, it's okay. It's okay. No, Riz is crazy. Edit that out. Yeah, like, you know, that's just how it happened. Like, even with the table, right? Like, this started to make sense after. Like, she sat at the table because he was at the table. Like, that same dude was at the table. Like, it all made sense. But my point is, the point of the story is that you can make anything make sense to you. You can say, oh, God is like showing me these signs, whatever. Like, it's really hard to know without being humble. It's really hard to know. Saul was convinced David was coming back to Judah because God blessed him. Like God was like giving an opportunity to kill him. God was so far away from him. God was so, y'all know horoscopes? Y'all know horoscopes? Raise your hand if y'all follow that. Raise it proudly. I know there's some on the cross. Okay. I'll only laugh a little bit. So I'm going to play it. So horoscopes, here's the thing. Like, these things, like, they're very general, true or false. Like, if you look at it, it's very general. It says, like today, something amazing is going to happen to you. It's like, okay, like, you're like, discount on gas, it's real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those kind of things. But you can make anything make sense. Like, you know, confirmation bias? If you're constantly looking for something, you'll find it. You'll find any reason to, like, prove it true. Let's talk about horoscopes for a second, actually. Now my mind is going crazy. Like, name some twins in the Bible. There's a twin in the Bible. Jacob and Esau. They were born on the same day. They're twins. So, because they're born on the same day, the same time, their horoscope should match. If you know their story, they're polar opposites of each other. One is calm, one is rowdy. One likes to pray, one likes to hunt. One is consumed by God, the other is consumed by the world. Complete opposites. So confirmation bias is like a real thing, and we add that to our spiritual life. Saul, he's looking for any excuse to kill God, or to kill David. So of course he's gonna find make it make sense for himself. So you gotta be careful. To discern whether it's God like telling you something, first step, you gotta be humble. Look inwardly. Critique yourself. Always. Remember, David, all he did was look inwardly. All he did was look inwardly. So, David, he talked to God. He's like, God, like, Saul, I heard he heard about me. Should I stay in Judah or leave? What would we do? The moment we hear, like, Saul's in town, we're out. But he's like, let's stay put. What does God want for us? Talks to God. God's like, yeah, Saul's going to come kill you, leave. So David, he leaves again. And now you have a cycle of Saul chasing David. I'm not going to get into all the details, but like it's like repetition of like David was here chilling. Saul pulled up. As soon as he heard that Saul pulled up, he ran away. Saul was mad that he ran away. This repeats. What I take away from this though is that God is so merciful. To who? To Saul. Saul is constantly budging against God's plan. David is God's plan. Saul is man's plan. Saul is constantly fighting. He killed priests. Why has God not just wiped this guy off the earth? and let David just make Israel great again. Why? Simple. He loves him. He loves him. Even in your lowest points, when you were no longer dignified to even be considered a human, when you're worse than an animal, God's like, I still love him. He's praying and hoping. Saul comes to his senses. Y'all know the story of the prodigal son? When the kid, he went to the pigs and looked at their food and was like, I want to eat it. It says he returned to his senses at that point. God is looking for us to return to our senses. He's not a God who's like a hall monitor waiting for you to mess up. That's it, thunder at your house. Like, he's not waiting to like punish you, waiting to hurt. He's looking for any excuse to have mercy on you. How many of us grew up thinking that like, if I do something bad, God is going to punish me? If I do something bad, yeah, God is going to punish me. My family, something's going to happen. That has to be like number one on the lies the devil was told. Like number one on the top 10 list. Is that's how God thinks. God is looking for any reason to have excuse. If anything, if you're doing something wrong, he's going to try to like prolong your life, if anything. Why? Because if you die in the midst of sin, what hope do you have to heaven at that point? He's not looking for that. He's not looking for that to happen. He loves him. So Jonathan, before like David like leaves, like remember he came back to Judah. This is where Jonathan lives. Jonathan hears about this. This is his best friend. He pulls up on David, and he's like talking to him again, and he says this. Then Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David in the woods and strengthened his hand in God. God's given him a boost. He sent Jonathan back in his life. Remember, Jonathan was that tool God gave him through hardships. He sent him in again. He's like, I can see, David, you're running a little low. Your faith, like, I can see it, like, it's still not, like, broken, but let me give you some more strength. Sends him Jonathan. And Jonathan said to him, do not fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Even my father Saul knows that. It's like, my dad knows that I'm with you, David. I'm with you. Stay strong. Let me know if you need anything. Be strong. When you're king, I'm going to be right by your side. And David, he goes back to his caves. So, there's about to be like a really funny verse. At least I think it's funny. Saul, again, like he hears David's in the cave. I don't know who's snitching at this point. Everywhere David is, like somebody's like, he's finding out. So Saul, he hears that David is in the cave. They send the whole address. He knows where he's at. And he goes over to pull up on him. And so David and his men, they're like at one section of the cave. Saul and his men, they enter through like the other section. So they're all in the same cave right now. It's about to go down. Because prior to this, they've always like missed each other. Like David just left, Saul just got there. Now they're there at the same time. It's about to go down. As they're looking for him, as Saul and them are looking for David, Saul's like, wait a minute, guys. Actually, I'm going to save that for a second. David, he sees Saul, and his troops are like, now's your time. Kill him. He can't see you. Go kill him. Go stab him. Like, end him. If you know anything about a king, does a king ever roll alone? Ever? Never. Always has like people around him. Why are they telling him to go attack right now? What do they mean now is your chance? Let's read what the Bible says. So he came to the sheepfolds by the road where there was a cave, and Saul went in to attend to his needs. It says that. And I try to be a scholar. I did some research. And I'm like, what is his needs? What is attending to his needs? Y'all know what it was? Whatever his needs was, it had to have made him alone, vulnerable to be attacked. That's why they're telling him. You know what it was? He'd take a dump. Number 2. That's why they're like, now's your chance. So Saul, he's here, and he's like, hold up, guys, wait a minute, like, give me a second. Like, he's like, I need some privacy. And so he goes there, and his troops, they're like hiding behind a rock with David, and they're like telling David, go kill him, like, now's your chance, go ahead, do it. And David's like, okay. Like, he goes, and like, he like sees Saul, and he's like shaking, and like, he rips off part of his robe. Like, he cuts part of his robe, and he runs back behind the cave before Saul's like Saul's taking a dump at the moment. Like, I don't know, he came in with a mask or something. Anywho, he did it, and he had like the piece of the robe in his hand, and he went back behind him, and he spares him. And you know what it says? David's heart troubled him because he had cut Saul's robe. That's like crazy. He didn't even kill him. But he cut off his robe, and it says his heart troubled him. This is the man who's been trying to kill him. The man who just killed priests. And he's like, how could I have done this? How could I have done this? This is who God anointed. How could I have done this? David's heart troubled him because he had cut Saul's robe. And David, after he's telling his servants, don't touch him. Because they're like, oh, if you're too scared, we'll do it ourselves. We're in this cave because of him too. David's like, no, you won't. That is God's anointed. You're not going to touch him. David told his servants not to touch him. David is freaking out right now, sweating, because he just cut off part of the robe of the king of Israel. What's the big deal with this? What's the issue with this? What is the problem with this? David is sensitive to anything that may separate him from God. Sensitive. Forget anything else. Anything that may separate him from God, he's extremely sensitive to it. How about us? He didn't even kill him. He just took a piece of the robe, sensitive to it. We're the opposite. We're insensitive to the things that God is sensitive to. Cheating, exams, ChatGPT, insensitive. David is there shaking, scared. Us were like, hey man, the system. You gotta beat the system. That's how we do it. Taxes, lying on our taxes. Hey man, the government, they take millions from Americans every year. But David, anything that could have been against God, he was so sensitive to it. One small, this wouldn't even make, think about it this way. For those of you who do confession, all of us should confess. This wouldn't even make top 100 on our confessions list. If he killed him, then yeah, he would probably confess that. Right? But for us, if we did that, I mean. But this wouldn't even make top 100 on our list. We don't confess that we use ChatGPT. We don't, whatever it is. David was confessing to God, I just cut off his robe. How dare I? And now the troops are behind him and they're hiding. And he's like, I'm going to give it back to him. They're like, no, you're not. He's like, I'm going to give it back to him. I'm scared. I'm going to give it back to him. No, don't do it, David. Don't do it. And David runs. He's like, Saul, Saul, Saul. And Saul turns around. He's like, what? He's like, and he bows down to him. He's like, look, I have this. I could have killed you. But I couldn't do it. I respect you. I love you. I couldn't do it. He says this. The Lord forbids that I should stretch out my hand against the Lord's anointed. He bows down to him. And as he's bowing down, he says this. After whom has the king of Israel come out? Meaning he's talking to Saul who are you looking for, Saul? Whom do you pursue? A dead dog? A flea? He's talking about himself. Why are you so worked up over me? I'm nothing. Here is this, I'm not trying to kill you. He's crying. He bows down to him. This is the kind of respect he had for him. See, the true test of your heart is when your enemy is vulnerable. We think if we do a good deed to a good person, that's a big deal. David did a good deed to the most wicked person ever. That is the true test of your heart. Especially he had every spiritual reason to kill Saul. Spiritual reason. He's a man, he just killed priests. He's a man against God, clearly. Even in those reasonings, it's I can't do it. God anointed him. God anointed him. Like I said, if it was us, raise your hand if you would have massacred Saul. If you would have just it would be done for. But come on, let's be honest. It would have been done for him. I'm too scared for that, but most people probably would have done it. It would have been done for. What does Christian mean? What does Christian mean? Y'all should know this. This is what you are, right? I think. Follower of Christ. Follower of Christ, by definition, you have to be different than the world. What does Christ say? The world's going to hate you because they hated me first. That's how they know you're one of me. If they hate you, that's how you know you're one of me. You're one of my followers. If you repay evil for evil, karma, bad for bad, did me dirty, I'm going to do them dirty. Okay, fine, they did me dirty. I'm not going to do them as dirty, but just a little dirty. If you do that, you are just like the rest of the world. Now what? Are you still a Christian? Remember, Christian means separated from God, different. Sanctified. You're different than everybody else. You move different. God wants us to be more special if you think about it. I want you to be more special than the rest of everybody else. When people do bad to you, do good. When people do evil to you, do twice as good for them. I want y'all to be different. You guys are special. You guys are different, but we're the only ones that fight against that. We're like, I'm not special, I'm basic. I'm just like everybody else. That's what we're saying. God is like, no, you're different. You're a Christian. You're my follower. You're capable of repaying evil with good. And we're like, nah, not me. I'm just like the rest of the world. He's like, you're out of the world. You're not of this world. Like, no, I'm pretty much of the world. That's what we say with these things. That's what we're doing. And Saul, he ends up crying. I think he's like finally like turning away from his evil. He ends up crying. He's like, is that you, my son? Earlier that week, he's like trying to kill him. He's like, my son, is that you? Like David? And he's like crying. And he says, surely you are more righteous than me. You have rewarded me with good, whereas I have rewarded you with evil. You have rewarded me with good, where I have rewarded you with evil. Proverbs 16 verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. When you are nice and loving, you have the power to change your enemies, even if it's for a second. What is being, like if two people are mad, and they're both mad at each other, anything will be resolved? I think I gave this story before. It's like, I've heard this story a couple times actually from some preacher. Like imagine this, right? Work. You go to work and your boss is just on you. Your boss is just on you. He's like, I thought like, I told you I wanted this type of font on that spreadsheet or whatever. Or I don't know. I don't work in tech. I don't know how y'all work. But let's say that. I wanted this type of font. And it's like, you're like, oh yeah, my fault. Like, I'll get on. He's like, no, you should have been on it from the beginning. You're like, wait, hold up. Like, what are you talking to right now? But like, you hold your mouth. You don't say anything. You go about your day, and like you forget to send one person an email or whatever. And he comes back and he starts yelling at you again. He's like, see, like, you don't get no work done, whatever, all of these things. At this point, you have every right to be like, who are you talking to? Like, first, this is America. Like, you cannot talk to me like this. Like, you know? Like, who are you talking to right now? But the dude is like, you know what, it's cool. It's fine. At the end of the day, like he clocks out and he's like, I hope you have a wonderful day, sir. And like the dude, like he starts thinking about it. He's like, dang, like he didn't snap on me. He told me to have a wonderful day. And like he couldn't sleep that night. And like he comes back into work and like he goes in. He's like apologizes to the worker. He's like, you're due for a promotion, aren't you? He's like, am I? Yeah, actually, I think so. He's like, okay, well, we'll get on that. You see how you can diffuse situations with those, like kind of like just like repaying evil for good? For a second here, David just diffused the whole situation with Saul. He diffused the whole situation. Now I'm going to wrap up with this. We're going to go into discussion. I have a question for you guys. Is this fair for David? Is this fair? Is what he's going through in his life right now fair? It depends how you look at it. If you think about it, like Saul doing all this evil, he's in a palace, David's in a cave. Is that fair? Here's how God looks at fairness. If a man acquires all goodness, but has hatred in his heart towards his brother, he is a foreigner to God. If you've acquired this palace, these servants, king of Israel, if you acquire all of that, but you hate your brother, you're a foreigner to me. I don't even know who you are. Whole time Saul is trying to like kill David. Whole time David doesn't have a room to rest his head. God is preparing his room in his mansion for him. Like I said, if God really wants to reward you, he blesses you inwardly. These things David is going through is what's going to make him, like I said, the king of Israel that we know him to be. The King David that even like Muslims or atheists or non-believers, they know a King David. They know like he's some big figure. It's these moments in his life that made him who we know him to be today. These moments. So, I'm gonna wrap up with this. There's always a better way to look at things in your life. You could be pessimistic or you could be optimistic about it. You could look at it saying God has a reason for it, or you could look at it saying God has left me. You could look at David as losing his wife. You could say he lost his wife, right? But David looked at it as, I had a wife that saved me. He didn't say, I lost my wife. He's like, I had a wife that saved me. Tamaskan, glory to God. You could look at it as, I was almost assassinated. I was almost killed. But he looked at it as, the assassins failed. My God saved me. He lost his home. You could be like, I lost my home. I used to have a roof over my head. But he's like, glory to God, he turned the cave into a home. You see? You can either look at it that way, or you can look at it how David looked at it. And then life just becomes that much more sweeter. Saul was miserable. And in fact, David was miserable too. God was working on both of them at the same time. That's why this story is so crazy to me. God is working with both of them. Two different people, opposite. But God is still trying to work for both of them. The only difference between them is one of them allowed God to work in his life. That is what differentiates Saul and David. They both sinned on the outside. They both did wickedness. They both did evil. In fact, David did more. What made him different is that one of them allowed God to work in his life. What does it mean to allow God to work in your life? It means listening to that voice, that conscience, telling you to go to church, telling you to pray, telling you to repent, telling you to confess, telling you to forgive. That is what it means to let God work in your life. But how many of us are just like Saul? I'm not going to forgive that person. They did this to me. You're not letting God work in your life. I'm not going to church. I'm not ready for it. You're not letting God work in your life. I'm not going to pray. I'm not ready for it. You're not letting God work in your life. That is just like what Saul is doing. That is the only difference between them two. As we keep going through this series, it keeps ringing in my head especially, I'm just like Saul. And how terrifying is that? Like I said, Saul ended up crying and he said, surely you are more righteous than I, for you have rewarded me with good, whereas I rewarded you with evil. And Saul apologized. However, his apology was focused on himself. He said, I'm sorry, but don't kill my family. You see? Like he's still focused on external things. He's apologizing to David, but he doesn't apologize to God. External things. 2 minutes and I'm done. Is that okay with you guys? I'm talking a lot, right? I apologize. 2 minutes. Romans chapter 12, verse 17 through 21. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay you, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you'll heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. God is saying, leave a vengeance for me. You repaying their evil for good is going to make them feel terrible. Y'all know when you're having a bad day and you just snap on somebody and someone's like, okay. They take it very well. You're like, oh dang, I'm kind of a jerk. You know what I'm saying? That's what it means. Coals on your head, burning. You feel so bad. You feel so bad. So that's kind of like the identification for Christians, by the way. It's not how much you go to church. Actually, I'll give you the story and I'll wrap up. Could be true, could be false. I don't know. I have to give that disclaimer so people don't try to find these stories somewhere. Anywho, could be true, could be false. I don't know. There's this dude. He passes away. He dies. And he wakes up and he sees a line and it's everything's bright, sunny. There's a huge gate. He's like, heaven, right? Okay, not bad. I made it. He's there. And he's going in line and he sees people as they're going inside the gates to heaven, they're showing some kind of identification. And he's like, what? I didn't know there was I didn't know the ID here. I thought we're good. Whatever. And so he's waiting his turn in line, and then he pulls up his wallet and he has a lot of cards. He's like I don't know what y'all looking for, but I have this. And these cards are labels of what you accomplished as a Christian. And so he's like, I have this card of going to church. And they're like, no, we don't take these here. I have this card of confessing. No, we don't take these here. He's like, what? What cards do y'all take? And somebody just passed him, he showed him card. He's like, what card did he have? It's he had the card of forgiveness. That's how God identifies Christians. That is our identification. That is our ID card as Christians. It's our forgiveness. Over everything else, That is where God says, they are different, they are set aside, they are mine. For as I forgave them, they also forgave others. That is mine. Forgiveness is the mark of Christians. Those who forgive have been forgiven by God. Those who do not forgive have not been forgiven by God. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. David, in the midst of all this evil, he still saw himself as the wrong. You can't even say he forgives Saul, right? Because he's like, it's my fault. I'm a dog. I'm a flea. You're chasing me. But for us, the take-home message is, if you want to know what it is to win God's heart, to be like David, a man after God's heart, you have to have a forgiving heart. That is what a man after God's heart is. A forgiving heart. No matter what nobody did to you, you forgive them. It said it right here. If you don't forgive somebody, God won't forgive you. Simple. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, is what it says in our daily prayer. I'll stop right there, and glory be to God.